Hey, what's up, guys? What I want to talk about, we always hear the same thing over and over again about how the crime scene was a bloody scene. And yes, we did see blood running down the wall from Xana's room outside. But what I'd like to know is if it was such a bloody scene, then why was there no DNA found on Bryan's person, in his car, at his apartment in Pullman? It just makes you wonder exactly what's really going on. Oh, it was a bloody scene. It was a bloody scene. Yes, it may have very well been a bloody scene, guys. But if it was truly Bryan, which I don't believe it was, okay? I don't believe it was, then how come he had no DNA anywhere on him or in his car? Because if if he truly did it, which I don't think he did, okay? Hear me out. I don't think he did. His dad would not have rode across country with him. He wouldn't have. He would either got back on that plane, flown back across the country to Pennsylvania, or he would have told Bryan, I'm not riding in this car. What's this? What's this? That looks like blood. What'd you do? What's going on? Bryan does not even look like a homicidal maniac. He doesn't. With and he sure doesn't in that new picture from the Ada County Jail with that sporty look. He looks like a man that wants to prove his innocence. He does. He wants to fight hard in this case to get himself exonerated. I don't even think, guys, that this is going to make it to trial. I don't. If it does, it does. But as far as the state goes, they're going to have one hell of a hard time getting this man convicted because all they have is circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial. And it's really hard to convict somebody on circumstantial evidence. I feel sorry for Bryan, I really do. You've got the mainstream media hurling spears at him. You've got the Gonzalez family wanting him dead, walking into a courtroom with death penalty T-shirts on. That was truly and utterly low and disgusting on their part. His parents had to clean up from the aftermath of that pre-dawn raid on their house on December 30th, 2022. Their house was destroyed. What about them? we're always hearing about Steve and Christy and their GoFundMe's, but what about the Kohbergers? I'm pretty sure that it's hard for them to show their face because of everything that has happened to them, has happened to their son. They've been drugged through the mud by the mainstream media, Nancy Grace included. His sisters have had lost their jobs over this BS. His family's being punished over these allegations on the Idaho 4 murders. They're being punished just for loving their son. Just for loving their son. They're being punished. They're being ridiculed by the mainstream media. The mainstream media is trying to, portray them as outcasts. Where is Michael Kohberger's GoFundMe? Where's Brian's mom's GoFundMe? Where's his sister's GoFundMe? You don't hear anything about them. They deserve a GoFundMe. His dad, his mom, and his sisters, they deserve a GoFundMe. But everything is the Gonzalez family's GoFundMe, $75,000. What about Michael Kohberger? What about what about Brian's mom? What about Brian's sisters? They're casualties in this too, because of what's going on with their son. And it's not Brian's fault. It's all these mainstream media sensationalized commentators. It's their fault that his parents have to go through this. Do you think the FBI reimbursed them for destroying their house in the pre-dawn raid? No. Just like the families of the victims, and yes, the families of the victims. The families are not the victims. Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan are the victims. The families are not. And who are the other victims in this case? The Kohbergers. Their livelihood, their home, their reputation, all of it destroyed. Their home was destroyed by a SWAT team and the FBI. And it's not fair. If they really thought this man did it, they could have took him any place else other than the home. If they really thought that he did it, they could have took him down when he was taking out the trash. But no. This little pre-dawn raid was their statement. The SWAT team and the FBI's statement You want to do this in the early hours of the morning? Fine. We will do it to you. This man, Bryan Kohberger, had no DNA in his car, no blood. There was no DNA on him. They were looking for their patsy and they found him. Because if he really did it, if he really did it, then why? Why did they let him go to cross country? I don't think this man did it. I think he's being set up. Because if he truly did it, they wouldn't let him drive from Pullman, Washington, 2,500 miles to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. They wouldn't have let him do it. They would have either arrested him or had him come in for questioning. Because if they quote unquote was onto him as early as November 29th of 2022, why didn't they have him come in for questioning? That makes you wonder. He could have went in, had an interview with the detectives. They could have questioned him. They would have let him go. But why wait to let him drive to his parents' house in Pennsylvania, and then a month later, a month to the day that they, on November 29th, a month later, on December 30th, in the early morning hours, they raid his parents' home and take him into custody. Do you realize how stupid that makes the law enforcement look? Especially Moscow PD and Pullman. Sorry, got an itch on my nose. And Pullman PD, they would let this quote unquote uh, quadruple murderer drive from Pullman 2,500 miles on the other side of the country. When if they really thought that he did it, they could have nabbed him there in Pullman. That makes me think he didn't do it. Really does. It makes me think he didn't do it. The the LE in this case has dropped the ball so many times. It's pathetic. They've dropped it so many times. First, believing DM. Now there's a question. They could have showed DM a photo of Kohberger in a photo lineup, and she could have picked him out. But it was in the middle of the night, and this person supposedly had a mask that covered the nose and the face. You know, the nose and the mouth. How could she accurately identify the person that did it? if they were wearing a face mask that covered the nose and the mouth. If they showed her a photo lineup and a picture of Bryan was in it, how could she accurately identify it was Bryan if his face was covered up? And don't tell me the bushy eyebrows gave it away. Really? The bushy eyebrows gave it away. You realize how many people there around Pullman and Moscow more than likely have bushy eyebrows? In the Banfield stop, Saeed, bushy eyebrows. So don't tell me the only reason why Bryan was picked was he had bushy eyebrows. When like half of Pullman and half of Moscow more than likely have bushy eyebrows. It was a coordinated setup. It was a coordinated setup because the U of I wanted the killer found, even though they didn't want reward posters put up on their campus for Precious Rush Week. Now, I've heard that there was some reward posters that were allowed to be up. I mean, if that's the case, that's awesome. But at the same time, could some of the students, namely sorority or fraternity, could they have been going around pulling those reward posters down because they didn't want it to upset their Precious Rush Week for new sorority and fraternity members? Possibility, guys. It really is. It's a possibility. And just like Scott Green came out in several statements that they're going to build low income housing for students right there at the spot of 1122 King Road. Personally, guys, since this was a horrible and heinous murder, they should leave that plot of land vacant. They should leave it vacant. Because you never know, that land, guys, that land that house sat on after the murders could either be cursed or haunted. Do you really want to build a home or build low income housing where 4 students lost their life in a brutal way? Personally, that's greed talking there. That's greed by the university. That's greed by Scott Green. They want to make money off that plot of land. They want to make money over this atrocity. Because mark my words, guys, mark my words. Those low income student housing will either turn into off campus sorority housing or off campus fraternity housing. Because that house sat on Greek Row. And you have the college keep reiterating their off campus home. They were murdered in their off campus home. Yes, I understand it was an off-campus home. I do. I understand it was an off-campus home. But that house also sat on Greek Row. And that's what made it iconic. That's what made that house an iconic house because it sat on Greek Row. I hope I answered your question right there, Kiki. Because you had all those parties going on in the house and in houses surrounding that house. And it was Olivia Gonzalez in an interview that stated how happy Kaylee was to be living in that iconic home, in that iconic house, because that house was a off-campus sorority house at one time, an off-campus fraternity house. That house was Greek life dominated and Greek life controlled. And that's sad. It really is. Those girls couldn't escape the fact that you had the Sigma Chi running parties out of that house, as well as parties around the college as well, because you've heard old Hunter Johnson, who Blaker got in his face, and Blaker says, "I've been a cop for 22 years. I'm not stupid. I know this is an off-campus sorority home." And he threatened to file breaking and entering charges on everyone in the house because none of the roommates was home and they were throwing a party in the house. So that's what makes it a iconic home was the fact it sat on Greek Row. And is that the reason why these four innocent college students were murdered? Because the night on Banfield, you could see 4 or 5 people either running or walking away real fast down that alley from the home across the street. You had all that activity there around Banfield from 254 to 316. But yet, that don't matter. What matters to them is suspect vehicle 1 enters the scene at 329. That suspect vehicle 1, guys, is a red herring. Because if it was just one vehicle, it would have been suspect vehicle. Being the suspect vehicle 1, could there have been more than one vehicle? You never know. But I do believe that suspect vehicle 1 was a red herring. Because you could see 4 or 5 people walking away or slash running really fast on that body cam in the background away from the home. Could those 4 or 5 people that was running away from the home, Could those be the killers? Quite possibly. But to the Moscow PD, that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, 3:29 a.m., suspect vehicle 1 enters the area. That's the only thing that matters to them. That's why I think it's a huge cover-up. Because I'm not saying the frats are involved. I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. But if you have 4 or 5 people, hear me out, guys, hear me out. If you have 4 or 5 people running down the alley away from the house and they're caught on body cam, could that be some frat members running away from the house? And just like that one statement that gentleman in Banfield made, oh, well, we thought you were fake people. How would fake people be out in the middle of Banfield doing an alcohol stop? And Saeed had bushy eyebrows. And when he was looking for his ID, you could clearly see on his phone that the body cam picked up. There was something on his phone that didn't look right. It didn't look right. So is there a interconnectivity going on with the college, the frats? There has to be. Because if you look at it, 4 or 5 people running away from the scene, picked up on body cam, but the officer acted like he didn't see him. Cover up. And Rosendahl was there too. Like always, guys, like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. Hit that bell notification for any new uploads. Make sure you click all. And let me know down in the comments what your thoughts and opinions and theories are with what I just said. This is Robert with True Crime Podcast. I'm out. Peace.
Stay in the house.